Great for Montana. I can tell you it's pretty tough to field dress an elk without a knife.
Well, I'm thinking that. Yeah. What are we going to do? Use our nail clippers?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And thank you, Jerome Murkowski, for holding this hearing on the Bipartisan Sportsmen's Act. It's an important bill to Montana, and I'm a proud co-sponsor. And like so many Montanans, hunting, fishing, and access to public lands is a way of life for us. It passed down from my grandfather through my dad to me as a kid growing up. And I will tell you, as a public service announcement for Montanans, remember March 16th, the deadline right now for special draw for deer and elk permits for those who are out there maybe caught up with D.C. politics. Also, I appreciated Senator Rich's comments about children and passing this on the next generation. One of the best parts when I've taken my kids hunting, we have 4 children, we love to hunt and fish, is usually they don't have cell phone coverage when we're out hunting. And they have to put down their phones, and they can pick up their rifles and their bows and so forth. And that's one of the great parts of getting out anymore, I think, with your kids. And I love that statement, that famous line says, if you take your kids hunting, someday you won't have to hunt for your kids. I think it's very, very true. Mr. Crane, as you stated in your testimony, the idea of conservation in America began with members of the sportsman community. And I know Montana sportsmen are frustrated with their current level of access to federal lands in Montana, and they are frustrated with fringe groups who are obstructing worthwhile projects that are important to effectively managing our forests. In fact, Montana faces severe challenge in mismanagement of our forest lands federally due to habitual litigation. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we had Forest Service Chief Tidwell confirm that litigation restraining orders have a significant impact on federal forest management. They occupy significant staff resources that could otherwise be spent on getting projects done. Yet these habitual litigants continue to get reimbursed by the federal taxpayer through the Equal Access to Justice Act and the Judgment Fund in particular. I'm happy to see the provision related to ensuring taxpayers are given more transparency on the recipients of these funds. Mr. Crane, can you expand on how the Bipartisan Sportsmen Act would help address the problem of these obstructionist tactics?
Yes, Senator, and I'll try to keep it brief. There are several provisions that I think would benefit this issue and help solve this problem. The first one is the equal access to justice provision in there and the transparency for the lawsuits and the judgment fund. I think that'll help to enable all of us to look at and see where really the issues are and who maybe, if there is a theme of folks that are going after access and forestry management. The Making Public Lands Public deals with a set aside from land and water conservation funding for willing sellers to provide physical access across private properties to make more access to federal public lands. And then Senator Heinrich's Hunt Act requires the federal agencies to look at and prioritize areas where there is an adequate access for sportsmen and women and other outdoor recreationists, and to try to look at how we can, with that inventory, then we can look at how we might be able to solve that.
Thanks, Mr. Crane. And you brought up the issue making public lands public. Mr. Fosberg, in the House, I introduced the Making Public Lands Public provision as a standalone bill. I'm very happy to see it included in this bill before us today. I think an important part of LWCF, as Mr. Crane pointed out, is allocating dollars to ensure public access to public lands. In Montana, we have 2 million acres of public lands that are inaccessible to the public. I'm happy to see your support of this provision. I know that the provision is a priority for several sportsman groups back home in Montana. Mr. Foster, why is sportsman access a worthy investment of LWCF?
Well, I mean, I think that, if you first you have to look at the big numbers, which is the $90 billion that hunters and fishermen provide the economy every year. And, that is, those are, a significant part of the whole $646 billion outdoor recreation economy. 6.1 million jobs in the broader recreation economy. And those are jobs that are never going to get exported to China. These are American jobs, and if we take care of our lands, take care of our fish and wildlife, and give people access to those, we'll have that forever. And the concern is that it just as access gets more and more difficult, you're going to see a drop off in those numbers. And that's, bad in terms of, for a bunch of reasons. But one is the amount of money when, Jeff and I and other folks, go out and buy our licenses, that we pay into that system. We pay excise taxes on, guns, ammo, fishing equipment, boating equipment. We buy our permits, we buy our tags. Members of various organizations contribute our money there. So you lose that also as you lose the access to the public lands.
One follow-up question, Mr. Crane, on that is, how does that open until closed provision, Section 101 of the bill, help ensure public lands are, in fact, managed for multiple use?
I think that we don't have the statutory protections in the Forest Service and the BLM that we have with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I think that by providing that, we again support this rural economy. We support the traditions of hunting and fishing, and we would like to see those protected and ensured that they're going to remain protected in future generations.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Daines.